Let's talk about the main event now and break this down between Alistair Overeem and Aleksei Oleinik. I gotta pick Overeem. You know I'm going to because I'm out. I train at Easton out here in Denver, and he trains downtown. And I think he decided to move there after his loss to Curtis Blades, right? Because Curtis Blades stopped him with elbows from the guard, and Blades is one of the best wrestlers in the heavyweight division. And Overeem, you always hear all this talk about his striking, but he's got some really good ground and pound, man. His top game when he's on top of guys on the ground, pretty fucking solid. And he showed that against Sergey Pavlovich. I know that's the guy who probably stepped in on short notice. I don't know if that was a short notice fight or not, considering Pavlovich was a favorite, to be honest. But regardless, Overeem shut him down, and you know that if he's working with a guy like Blades, his wrestling's going to improve incrementally, right? And he's been there for a little bit of time now, so he's going to make strides in that department. The problem is, do you want to take the fight to the ground with a guy like Aleksei Oleinik who hits Ezekiel chokes from the bottom of mount? Right? He's one of the more unique submission artists in the heavyweight division. He's got a grip like a fucking python. He's a killer, man. I don't even know how many submissions does he have. It's got to be a lot. His record is 57. These guys have over 100 combined fights between them, more than that. Alistair Overeem is 44-17 with one no contest, not counting his kickboxing experience. And Aleksei Oleinik is 57-11-1. I mean, these guys have a lot of experience between them. This is a really fucking fun fight. Two vets going at it, two heavyweights, anything could happen. I like Overeem, though. I'm not going to pick against him because, like I said, I train at the same gym at him, and it would feel wrong. I'm not, like, by the way, I want to be very clear on this. I'm a white belt, right? Like, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about 3 years, but I'm still a white belt. I just started kickboxing recently. I've just been a fan of this stuff for a long time. I don't claim to be an expert on this stuff. It's just fun for me, and it's a good way for me to learn, you know? Like, I enjoy the sport, and I like talking about it, discussing it, bullshitting it, and breaking these down is a good way to learn because then I get to look back and be like, oh, fuck, I was wrong about a lot of things this fight. And that happens all the time. People get on. I had a guy comment on one of the videos the other day, and he was like, looks like your predictions were pretty wrong. I was like, well, yeah, there are going to be a lot of wrong ones. That's the whole point of this thing. I just enjoy the sport. Like, these aren't meant to be taken like overly seriously. Like, I care about the fights, but I care more about the outcome than I do whether I got the right. You know what I mean? I care more about what happens and what the actual reality of the fight is more than whether I get it right or wrong. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't know. So whatever. Either way. But I do train at Easton, which is affiliated with the downtown branch. I train with the one in my area, and I'm not going to pick against him, right? But I actually do think that Overeem is going to have the tools to get this job done. He's going to be able to keep his range and pick him apart on the feet. He's a much more patient striker now that he's gotten older. He's not as reckless. He was comfortable enough to go to the ground with Fabricio Verdum and sit in his guard a little bit. He didn't stay there too long in their last fight. You know, I think you could debate the outcome of that fight. I think it was a good fight by Alistair, but I don't know. I feel like overall, I felt like Fabricio won that fight. But Alistair's he's one of those guys who his striking's just so explosive and so devastating that you never really get to hear about some of the stuff that he does on the ground. And I think he's going to be a little bit too savvy to get caught in some of the stuff that Oleinik's going to do. I don't think this might not be the most exciting fight in the world. And, you know, I think that Overeem's going to want to play a patient game, pick him apart over the course of however long it takes. I don't think he's going to want to engage in those grappling exchanges, but if the fight goes there, I mean, I think Overeem will be savvy enough to survive and get out of those positions and get back to his feet. He's been these guys both have been doing this a long fucking time, but Overeem I just think is going to have an advantage standing up and an advantage, you know, not an advantage on the ground, but I think he'll be competent enough to defend himself and get out of some of those positions that you see some of these guys get caught in, like an Ezekiel from Mount. You know, like you got to be aware of that with this guy, that he can grab you from anywhere. Just if Overeem is cognizant on the ground, if it goes there, if he controls distance, he should win this fight. I'd imagine that he's going to be a pretty big favorite going into this one. So, I mean, Oleinik's an animal, though. If Oleinik gets him on the ground and can get a hold of him, I mean, look what he did to Travis Brown. He's a guy who's kind of breaking out now. You know, he's making a little bit of a name for himself. So we'll see. I'm taking Overeem, though. I'm taking him by decision, unanimous decision. I think that's the way he'll win this fight. Or Overeem can stop you, man. He's got some legitimate power if he really starts pouring it on. I guess it depends on how dangerous he's gauging that Aleksei Oleinik is and whether he can hurt Oleinik, you know. Fuck. I'm going to go third round knockout instead of decision. I think Overeem is going to land with something eventually that's going to put him out. I don't think it'll necessarily be early on in the fight. I think Overeem, like I said, he's more cautious in his career, and this is a guy that you definitely have to be cautious and dot your I's, cross your T's. But I like him to get the job done. I think it'll be a good win for him. So let's go back over the card real quick. I'll try to summarize the mess of the predictions that I just gave you. Like I said, man, this is a hard fight. It's hard to find some of these motherfuckers, especially like you got guys with records like 8-0, Marcelo Golem 6-2, Sergey Pavlovich 12-1. Like those aren't a ton of fights, and when they're in other organizations, nice thing about Fight Pass is a lot of stuff is just organized and collected right there, right? Like you can watch almost every UFC fight, but when you start getting outside of that, I know Bellator put some of their stuff up for free. I was able to find some of the fights, like I said, but just not all of them. So it's kind of a hard card to predict. Don't go if you're looking to this. If you're looking to me for betting advice on this one, I wouldn't fucking do it. But, I think it's going to be a fun night of fights.